I'm Megan Skidmore, and welcome to the Beyond the Shadow of Doubt. I'm a woman, daughter, sister, spouse, mother, life coach, and person of faith on a mission to normalize asking questions and allowing doubts on a faith journey and all aspects of life. Join me as I bring this traditionally taboo topic out of the shadows of shame and into the light. I firmly believe we normalize through more talking and engaging in discussion. More talking peels back, exposes, and erases the layers of shame associated with asking questions and allowing doubts. When we are more authentic about our journey, we are more powerful because shame has no power in the face of authenticity. Hopeful Spaces is a Dallas Hope Charities component of Hopeful Discussions, sponsored by Mercedes-Benz Financial Services USA. It's a free monthly parent, ally, or caregiver support group facilitated by Megan Skidmore Coaching. Email chc@dallashopecharities.org for more info. First Friday's free coaching, a confidential group to bring all the questions, vent frustrations, share fears, express doubts. Navigating a new and uncertain reality is hard enough. Let's remove the worry of judgment from others. In this group, I will help you help yourself so that you can be there for your child, family, loved ones, and for you too. Click the link in the show notes to sign up. You must complete the agreement. Hey, everybody. Welcome to our episode today on the Beyond the Shadow of Doubt podcast. I know I say this at the beginning of every episode pretty much, but I am just ecstatic for you to meet Iese today. I had the privilege of getting to hear Iese's presentation in September when you presented at the Gather conference. And you are a musician in your background, and we're going to learn more about all of that. But I was just floored by what you taught us and your analogies. And so thank you so much for coming and sharing this time with me and with our guests today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to have this conversation.
Just before we hit the record button, you shared how you love conversations and you're okay with hard questions. And I am too. I totally vibe with that. I think that's where the growth comes.
Absolutely.
So we are just going to dive right in. Please just start by sharing with our listeners all about you. I wish you could see what I can see. You've got this way cool background going on. I know you're from Hawaii, but you're not there physically right now, but it sure looks like Hawaii behind you. Anyway, share your background with us, your origin story, anything you feel comfortable.
Thank you so much for asking about the story. Should I take like 5-10 minutes? I don't want to go too deep if you don't want me to go too deep.
Whatever you want to share, just go for it.
Well, thank you. I would say, so for the name, let's start off with the name. So my name is Iese, spelled I-E-S-E. It is a Samoan name for Jesse. And I am Samoan, Hawaiian, Filipino, and a little bit of English. So my middle and last name is Purcell and Wilson. And you mentioned that my home is in Hawaii, but fun fact is I actually grew up in Orange and Santa Ana, California, and that's okay. No, they're both that's a really big part of the story for me. Is I grew up in a place where I didn't quite fit into, like, growing up in like Santa Ana Garden Grove area. Like, my elementary school was half Vietnamese and half Mexican, and so when you're so my brother and I made up like the 1% other of that demographic.
Wow.
And so right off the bat, I've always felt different. I should open up that I identify as being gay, he, him pronouns. But at that time, I could just tell that I was different, but I obviously don't have a concept of orientation yet at that time. But a big part of that was, not concept of orientation at the time, but also I was different because of my ethnicity and being mixed. So fast forward over to middle school, I get into I lived through Proposition 8 in middle school.
Goodness.
So that's when I learned about what gay is, And so to be a closeted gay person of color in Orange, California, Orange Santa Ana area was crazy because I've chosen to be more religious. I tried to bring my family back to church, and we were coming back to church, but then I can see the LGBTQ community protesting in front of the temples, and then I remember hearing the church leaders talking about asking people to wave signs for, I believe it was Yes on 8.
Yeah.
And so like it was like my community was outwardly expressing my inward struggle. It's kind of poetic. So like that's why like I grew up in California, but California never really felt like home to me. It wasn't until after I served a mission, and which I served in the New Zealand Auckland mission, Samoan speaking. Got to learn my native culture,
That is
my native tongue.
fabulous.
Yeah, that was really
That's so
cool.
wonderful.
And it wasn't until after that I felt prompted to go to Hawaii to learn more about my Hawaiian side. I learned about my Samoan side, and I moved into it with my grandparents to learn about my Hawaiian side, and ended up going to BYU Hawaii over there, and that's normally what gets me invited onto these wonderful podcasts is ended up getting involved with a lot of LGBTQ plus advocacy out there, which is when I came out at the age of 25. I'm now 30.
My goodness.
Yeah.
You,
So
wow.
so while being there, I comforted about 200. This is an estimation. About 200 LGBTQ individuals, both open and mostly closeted, from the 60 plus countries that attend that university, and just cried with them. And then so I worked with the BYUH presidency over there, and then even worked with church leaders to get our first LGBTQ topic fireside in the stake center for the first time in school history. So
Are you
it was a lot
kidding
of
me?
firsts. Yeah.
About how long ago was that fireside?
Um, that was right as we were emerging out of COVID, and when we were able to start getting back into the chapels again.
Okay.
So it's like, was that 2020? Yeah, it was probably 2020. 2021, one of those two.
Uh-huh.
Can't remember off the top
So
of my head.
pretty recent past.
Yeah, yeah. And so and that's what is because I did that I got interviewed by Papa Osler and
Mm-hmm.
Ben and Charlie on their podcasts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, so that's what got me started in all this. And then and yes, I got my BA, but Bachelor's of Arts in general music. And I'm a conductor. I'm here at Arizona State, knocking out my last semester in my master's in conducting, where I'm
Oh
studying
my
under
goodness.
my queer mentor. Yeah, I have a non-binary mentor named Dr. Jace Koholakua Saplan, and we came here as an all-queer cohort. So me and my two cohort mates, all queer, including a queer professor, and we got to build a program of safety and inclusion here at ASU that I'm really proud about. And I'm actually going to be doing a poster session about that with my friends at the American Choral Directors Association conference in Pasadena in a month or two. So yeah, so I came out at 25, and after that was straight LGBTQ advocacy ever since. So that's just kind of like the overall timeline, and feel free to ask questions
Yeah.
anywhere along that timeline.
I'm so happy for you that you have been able to create this safe pocket for yourself. What a cool thing to have that cohort and be able to relate to one another and just be there for one another on many different levels, obviously. So you have a rich heritage. I love that. And it's clear from just how much you're
Thanks.
beaming that you love every part of it. And that's wonderful. And I'm not just talking about your Samoan, your Hawaiian, you were raised in California. You have a rich heritage as well in your identity as a queer individual. And I'm so grateful that you stepped up to, obviously you felt some kind of call to be an advocate, to be a safe space there. And you made a huge difference to those 200 individuals. I have zero doubt about that.
Thank you.
One thing that we didn't quite touch on. I know you said you served an LDS mission. This podcast, I interview folks from all different faith backgrounds because this is, we all have faith journeys, regardless of what conservative faith you might have been raised in or come from, or even if you've converted from one to another. Were you born into the LDS faith, or was your family? Can you tell us a little bit about that part of your background?
Great question. My dad was raised in the church. His parents, my grandparents, are immigrants from Samoa. And the thing is, my great grandpa. Oh, fun fact! This I've never mentioned this before. I'm named after two of my great grandpas, Iese Purcell and Iese Wilson. So my full name is Iese Purcell Wilson, and
Okay.
both these men were some of the pioneer leaders of the church in Samoa. And
Okay.
so my great grandpa Iese Purcell would actually travel around as the branch president throughout all of Samoa, and so that's how deep my roots are there. And my mom, who is Hawaiian Filipino, was raised in Hilo, Hawaii. It wasn't until she came to California for college, for nursing school, that she met a guy and was baptized, and then would later meet my dad at, ironically, a church sponsored luau. I believe over in it was in Mission Viejo, and so
Okay.
like and to be Polynesian, particularly on the Samoan side, is it's church is integrated into the culture just as much as Catholicism is integrated into, like, for example, Mexican culture or a lot of those Latin
Mhm.
American cultures. It's hard to separate religion from the culture. That is, in American Samoa, their motto is "Mua mua leatua," which is God comes first, and so it really is an inseparable part of the culture. And so,
Yeah.
so my immediate family. I'm the oldest of three boys, and my parents. We made up the nuclear family. But half of my time, the reason why I say I lived in Orange and Santa Ana, it was with my um, family, with all my about 15 other cousins and my grandparents from Samoa. We were all in the same house growing up together,
Oh my
and so
goodness.
they were
Fantastic.
all, yeah, it was, oh, I love it, and very,
Mhm.
very typical. If there's anybody in Pacific Island here is like, that's my upbringing too. Um, and so they were very active, but my family was probably going the most inactive at that time. So it wasn't until I felt the urge to for spirituality and community around middle school that I started pushing my family back to church.
Gotcha. I've only had one other guest that I can think of off the top of my head who is of the Polynesian culture. That's Inoke Tonga. I
Oh,
interviewed.
that very Tongan, yeah.
Yes. And that was a great interview. Highly recommend listening to Inoke's story. He's a volleyball coach and was actually on the Ellen show for what happened
Oh,
to him.
wow.
So this is great to see more representation within the Polynesian community and how it overlaps with the conservative faith community, LDS and otherwise, and with the queer community. So your roots in the LDS faith do run deep. You you mentioned earlier from a young age that you were just different. And you've also mentioned how, the church was important to you, to the extent you tried to encourage, you got to a point where you were encouraging your family to come back, and you lived through Prop 8. Wow, just so many layers here. Share with me this process of deciding to open up to your family, your loved ones, your friends at age 25, of how you feel inside, of how you identify. I mean, 25, the youthful brain, they say, is, your prefrontal cortex pretty much developed by then. It's not like someone could say, oh, you're young. You don't know what you're talking about, right?
Mhm.
You had plenty of time to experience ESA and know yourself. Can you share with us what brought you to that point, knowing how your faith of origin, how it's, what its teachings were?
Oh gosh, yeah, I definitely was before the coming out at 25. I gotta admit that, like, one of the things that's very common for members of our faith that are queer is that we try to do the mission to try to pray away the gay, try to show God, and
Yes.
as the reward that we're expecting, you do take this away because this is supposed to be a phase. And so hyper religiosity is a huge part of my story. And so when you think when you know that that's my background, you know that it had to take a massive um, smack upside the head to flip out of that, because I was pretty content with dying a closeted man. Um,
Wow.
so what happened was I was actually I had attended my first semester BYUH, and I was on summer break, and I was just doing my evening prayers. I'm now living in Hilo, Hawaii with my grandparents who aren't members of the church, and I was just doing nightly prayers, and I get this. I don't get. I will be clear. I do not get the revelations of words where somebody said like, or I hear God speaking to me, and
Mhm.
that does not happen for me. But this was one of the rare moments in my entire life that's happened, and it was just a normal night, and it was just the prompting was, yes, it's time to come out to your family,
Okay.
and you need to take care of your LGBTQ brothers and sisters at BYU Hawaii, and so that was like I'm like mid prayer, and I cut off the prayer, and I'm just like, whoa, this goes against everything that I have been working on, and of how I perceive the writings of scripture and the speakings of church leaders. This goes against, like, I fought back to it, and then I grabbed what's known as a patriarchal blessing, which is a blessing that is given to us as like things that we can accomplish in this life if we live righteously. That was given, and so it's written down on the paper. So I grabbed this blessing to try to disprove God. Like, get back to my
Oh my
prayer. Let me show you
goodness.
what this is, what you told me. And there's a section about my mission, about how my mission was supposed to. It's going to help so many people. I'm going to be blessed with the talents of uh, speaking and love and kindness and care. But if you knew me on my mission, I was that mission leader that nobody wanted because I was so self-righteous, because I was trying to like get the gayness to go away. So I was so overzealous and unlikable. So like that didn't come true. But then as I'm mid prayer with God and with my patriarchal blessing, reading through it, like the veil was lifted of it off of it. I'm like, oh, this applies to my mission here at BYUH,
Oh,
where I'm supposed to take care, like, and sure enough, that's exactly what happened. So before I jump too far ahead into the ministry at BYU Hawaii, is like that is the only thing that could have ever got me to come out, was when God told me in prayer that it was okay. And like, I attended an Institute of Religion class, and I remember the topic was polygamy, and like I remember this instructor saying the rules of we can say make one really simple rule for polygamy, and that is it is okay when God says it's okay, and it's not okay when God says it's not okay, and because it changes throughout the timeline of God talking with mankind. And so anyway, going back to this conversation, like I had that realization, like, okay, it's okay when God says it's okay, and it's not okay when God says it's not okay. This time I'm feeling personally prompted to do this. And so so like go and do the things the Lord commands. And so I planned out that I would come out to my parents when I visited in California, and that's where I came out to my family. Came out to my dad first in the car ride home, hoping that he could gather the family, and he tried to fix me a little bit, but it wasn't too hard. I that was also when I told him probably a year prior that I was meeting a therapist for 3 years in secret that was being funded by my bishop, and he's like, that is when you came out to me about seeing a therapist. I'm like, oh, my son might be gay.
wow.
So that was the first time he ever had the inclination, and so he told me that in the car. But he tried to fix me by saying, "Oh, go talk to your uncle Robert. Go talk to the. He's like you." And I'm just like, "Dad, I don't need to be fixed." And he asked, like, "Have you thought about this?" I'm like, "I've thought about this," and um, and so I come out to my parents, my brothers, and they were very receptive. They all chose to love me, and I failed to mention this part. I was a because of being closeted gay, um and I don't know if you've seen this in people in your practice. I don't know if there's a common thing. Is I didn't like myself, so I took out my pain on my siblings growing up. I would categorize myself as an emotional abuser to my siblings as the oldest brother of three. And so when I came out, I got to say like, hey, I hope like this. I It doesn't condone, like it doesn't say that it was okay what I did, but I hope you can now understand where that was coming from. That I was taking out the part that I hated on me out on you. And that day began the beginning of a new relationship between me and my brothers. And my parents have accepted me. And I'll just close with this. My mom and I were walking their dogs the next day, and she's a personal trainer, and she told me before walking the dog, she's like, um, I just broke down crying after I finished training my client. I'm like, I know it's hard. It's hard to have a gay son. She's like, no, it's not that. I'm like, then what could it possibly be about? And she's like, well, you don't know what it's like to be a mother. That was I so busy that I couldn't see that my son was struggling and that he couldn't come and approach me. Like that's my initial reaction. And then the other thing is there's life is already hard, and now it's going to be so much harder for you because of who you naturally are, and there's nothing I can do about that. And so like that changed my life. My mom, like that's an A+ response by a mother. And that I'm very grateful for her, and she's been stalwart and supporting me ever since. And my dad has been not as vocal. That's not been his personality, but he's been very loving and caring towards me. I have a wonderful boyfriend. I have a wonderful boyfriend. Sorry, I'm shouting that to make sure that he heard that. And he visited our house, and my dad made sure to tell him,
That's
hey,
great.
you can always come here if you're always welcome at this house. So to indicate, my dad may not say much, but that's where he is. So that's where I'm at now in 2024.
Wow. I am so happy for you, and your happiness is so obvious. You're beaming. I love your tribute to your parents. And if there's any parents listening right now, I want to point out something that you said, ESA. You didn't say that your parents were perfect handling it as you grew up. They didn't even know. You mentioned your dad might have started to suspect at one point, but that wasn't until you were a little bit later. But that isn't what you're focused on. You said A+ response by my mom. Like it changed my life. And you meant that. You're not just making that up. And you've also mentioned how appreciative you are of your dad's response, that he's loving and he's open, and he said you're always welcome in our home. And if there's parents listening, I hope that you can be gentle with yourselves, and really more than anything, just keep those lines of communication open, right? This isn't the first time either you, a queer kiddo, or a parent has expressed. Parents often will feel like, what did I miss out on? What did I not see? They feel like maybe they've failed in some way. And I think the important thing is to focus on the here and the now and what is going well. You can, if you want to look to the past, use it as maybe a milestone or a baseline of where maybe you were, but look at how, what is different now and how have things evolved or changed, or you've grown or improved. And that was just a beautiful tribute to your parents. Maybe I'll get them on here sometime.
They're very humble people. I doubt they would, but that's why I have to shout them out, because and they're still trying. Like I just had a breakthrough with my mom again for another level. Is we were playing this card game called We're Not Really Strangers, and and then I pulled this card that the question was like, what needs to be done for us to feel closer together? And like that's a hard question that she had to answer. And she was like, I feel like I need to ask more about your life, about like the gay part of your life. I've just kind of like okay, I'm just not going to talk about it, but like I feel now that we played this game and that we've been having conversations, Like I should be asking about how's dating going, how's your heart, and instead of just not talking about that. And so like that's been almost 5 years since I first came
Yeah.
out, and so there's another level, and let me also give parents, if we're talking to them, something that I tell myself and I try to tell other LGBTQ people to consider is nobody can be as homophobic as I was to myself. And so I knew I was different by around age 10, 9 or 10. And so that coming out at age 15, so if it's taken me 15 years of self-hate, then I at least got to offer my parents maybe another 15 years or something a long time to work through that, because like they like I was harsh on myself. I think immediately we kind of expect them, well, they should just love me. Like, well, hey, did you love you for those 15 years?
Mhm.
And so they need to go on that journey too. And so I think we could do better. And obviously there's some unique situations for that, harder situations than what I had. But if possible, maybe we can offer parents a little bit more grace.
Yeah. So wise. That was really a powerful, poignant statement that nobody could be as homophobic to you as you already were to yourself. That's a little sobering. And yeah, I think that's why one thing I say often is lead with love. I truly don't believe a person can go wrong if they are truly coming from a place of love in what they're saying, what they're doing. Um, Maybe that's idealistic. I'm talking true, sincere, unconditional love, love without conditions. I wanted to circle back when you talked about the reason why you came out, because God told you it was okay. You even said, really, the only way that I came out is because God told me that it was okay. And yet you'd known since you were 9 or 10 that you were different. One of the things I aim to normalize through this podcast is our faith journeys all look different. And so for yours, you know what God spoke to you. However, that type of communication works within Iese, right?
Amen.
You knew what God was telling you to do, what the divine was directing you was your next steps. And then eventually you said you kind of put two and two together when it came to reading through your patriarchal blessing again, and knew that the next part of your calling, your mission, was to be a resource, a safe place for all the queer BYU students. So what would you share with those who are listening? And it's could be parents, it could be the kids. Like, your faith journey is unique to you, and you've had questions come up. You have had things that maybe caused you to have some doubts. And I'm just here to normalize our faith journeys, including the questions, maybe even especially because of the questions and the doubts. They are beautiful. So, can you share how you have allowed that process? And I heard you in your younger years, you were, kind of hyper, did you say hyper spiritual, hyper
Yeah.
something?
Yeah.
But definitely there's been an evolution, because I don't get that vibe from you at all. I mean, you just said, "Hey, boyfriend," a minute ago. So, yeah, share a little bit about that part of how you navigate your journey, your faith journey.
That oh gosh, where do you go from here?
Whatever pops in your mind. No wrong direction here.
I right before we started this podcast, I said, yeah, ask the hard questions, and I think it's because for me, like with you just grow up with the hard questions, like, all right, if I was is gay being gay a sin? It's not a sin? Like how does then why would God make me allow me to be born gay if that doesn't lead to a straight marriage? Like, is he setting me up for failure? Like all these hard questions, but like like they kind of get just chew on them, and they just bake over years, and that's kind of where I'm at is just sometimes questions take some time to bake, and at least that, like for me, like I was not expecting to get an answer to come out at 25. It was just an evening prayer, like any other day, and so like getting comfortable with not like that helped me. Let's go back to that idea of me being really self-righteous on my mission. I acted like Javert acts in Les Miserables. I was very justice oriented. I thought I was better than everybody else. But the
Okay.
truth is, we are all we're all flawed. Like, and justice has claim on all of us if we've ever made a single mistake. And so like, where am I going with this? I've learned that living in dissonance, which is something I talked about at that gathered conference,
Yes.
is 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 a concept that sometimes you need to lean into those harsh dissonances, and they feel uncomfortable for a moment, and you lean into them till there's a resolution. It may not even resolve the way that you're expecting it resolve, but uh, gosh, give me another question that I can launch in a little bit further.
Well, no, that was actually really perfect. Yeah, Javert from Les Mis is definitely very much that black and white um, type of thinker. There was one way and one way only, and that's a really interesting comparison. Let's talk a little bit about this dissonance, this concept of dissonance, because that was just this was the main focus of your presentation, what you shared at the Gather conference. Let's dive into that. You know, yeah, sometimes you do need to lean into that. I think all the time, actually, we need to. And you said until there's a resolution. And I had the thought maybe sometimes there's not, or you're waiting. You use the analogy of cooking and baking. Maybe it's still in the oven and the resolution isn't going to come for a while, right? We just, I think as humans, we don't tolerate that discomfort very well. I think there's a movement to try to move in that direction of allowing dissonance, allowing, or at least not ignoring it,
Yeah.
not
Well,
trying to run away from it.
I feel like we're moving in. Maybe it's the millennials and Gen Z and a lot of us, but like
And the
I think
progressive
we
Gen Xers, come on.
and the progressive Gen Xers, yes, like we we have this idea. Like I feel like maybe we're finally starting to get a little bit of more of an idea of what faith is, which in our church is known as the first principle of the gospel of Jesus Christ, and so like it's funny for a religion that I love and still an active member of, that we say our first principle is faith, but we always lead in with our I knows. I know this, I know that, I know. And I just I taught elders quorum this past Sunday, and I closed my lesson out with, "This is not an I know testimony. I'm going to use different words, and I use them intentionally. I trust that God loves me, and I am striving to believe that there's a way that I fit in here into God's plan of salvation." And this concept of sitting in that dissonance is what may perhaps this really I'm closer to faith and acting on faith because I don't have those answers. I feel like we, especially when we like the name of this podcast, Beyond a Shadow of a Doubt. I don't know how many times I've heard people just throw that out there, and then just by rote
Yeah.
say like, I know this, I know this, I know this.
Yeah.
What else? There's one more I know I need to list on there. Oh, I also know this, but having dissonance and causes us to, I feel like what I was trying to say about this new generation. I feel like we're starting to accept this is where faith may actually be operating in this space. And I have grown, and
Yeah.
to connect back to that idea of justice and Javert is because I'm in that dissonance, the
Mm.
grace and mercy that I am able to offer to others and not judge them and allow them to be whoever they are and make the mistakes that they need to make has increased exponentially. I am a better disciple of Jesus Christ, I believe, because I sit in that dissonance,
Yeah.
possibly without a resolution in sight, because that person that I may be having conflict with may have their own set of dissonances that they're going through, and I can offer grace for that. So
Yeah.
it's really it's messy and it's wonderful.
I agree. And yes, I purposely picked the title of this podcast because that is a statement that's been used multiple times over not just years, but we're talking, generations. And I purposely dropped the A in an attempt to really examine this shadow that has been cast on doubt and see doubt for what it really is. It's a good thing. You're talking about faith. The opposite of faith isn't doubt. The opposite of faith is certainty. The only person who has 100% certainty is the divine, right? And so I see faith and doubt as basically two sides of the same coin. You really can't have one without the other.
Yeah, and if I can also add to that idea, and I mentioned this in the podcast, is when we have that faith and we have that doubt, we have dissonance. Another term for sciencey folk, they may like the word friction, and with that, like friction is not inherently bad. And the example I gave was when a car tire touches pavement, and we're trying to get the car moving forward, there
Mhm.
must be friction to move the car forward. That is what we're talking about here. Is it working in tandem with the goal of progression?
That's really good. I really like that. Yeah. Now, I don't know if you're near your piano or if you can get there. I'll take that expression as a no.
No,
Okay. That's
sorry.
okay. I will send folks to your presentation at Gather, but can you just tell us what is it from a musical standpoint that is so why dissonance is actually even something desirable and you want it? It's helpful, it's moving, it's all of those things. Can you share a little bit more about that concept with us that was just so encapsulated, so I just was enraptured by it.
Yeah, thank you. So where do I start? Where I started the presentation was there's a an interval in music that was actually outlawed by the Catholic Church back in ancient times, maybe not ancient times, but the medieval time.
Okay.
And it was known as a tritone, otherwise known as they named it the Devil's Tone, and that one sounds like do fi do wait do so fi do fi
Okay.
do fi. Yeah, see how that has a dissonance? That
Yes.
they would not allow that to be written into their music because it sounded like the devil. But it wasn't until much later that we realized that if I were to put that in another chord, it's the chord that we play right before we sing Happy Birthday, and so it serves a purpose, and it's even in all of our hymns. If anybody here's a musician, if you see a chord that says a seven on it, it guarantees that you have dissonance. If you have
Hmm.
the word sus written after the chord, that means that there's going to be dissonance. So what is the point in that? The point I was trying to make is that in music, dissonance isn't what makes the music ugly. It does a few different things. It is what progresses the music forward, and it is what makes the music beautiful. If you try to listen to a music that has zero dissonance in it,
Yeah.
it's not good music. People don't listen to it, uh,
Yes.
and we so
You
it
know the
so it
hymns that don't have it. They're just simple chords one after another. You definitely know the ones that don't have it. You're right.
yeah, yeah. There, I think there may be there. Some of them may not be as strong as others,
Okay.
but just the way that music is written, they're in there. Like, but and here's the way you can if you've grown up in a hymn tradition, it's almost always the last two chords you hear, and it goes ti do the ti do. You always that's
Okay.
always somewhere in those. If you don't get that, then you can't tell that the song's over.
That's
So
there's conclusion. There's some type of you use the word kind of resolution there.
yeah, absolutely. So it's a complex topic, but I I try to help people understand that through this metaphor or analogy that like we need to not avoid look at dissonance as this thing to avoid. This is like contention is evil, this is wrong. Like, no, this is what propels us forward, and it is what creates the beauty.
So to broaden that and apply it to life, I mean, music, of course, is a big part of life. But if we were to take that then and apply it to the queer community, when someone comes to you and shares, well, that's, if they feel you're safe, they feel they feel comfortable sharing with you like you did with your parents. I identify as I felt this way since I was 9. I'm gay, right? You know, there could be some that might respond to someone sharing that can't be. That's not right. That's not what we know we've been taught. That's not what we quote unquote believe, on and on. Versus, and that would maybe come from a place of resisting that person is
Mm.
sharing something that doesn't feel comfortable to you. It's bringing up some maybe resistance. It's bringing up the dissonance. It doesn't match what you've been taught, right? And so if you were to, use that concept of allowing that dissonance, you lean into that and you're able to have that number 7 chord that you called it, allow it in whatever your music sheet of life looks like, leaning into that versus running from it or taking it out of your music sheet of life.
Yeah, if I can elaborate on that, is
Yes.
that the like I like how you mentioned like not running away from it. Let me show you what that sounds like. Is when we like, for example, somebody comes up, you now feel dissonance, and we're like, I don't want to feel this, and I walk away. This is what it sounds like if we're gonna run with that analogy. To me, here's a scale for you, and I'm gonna stop on T instead of
Okay.
going all the way to Do, and I want you to feel how it kind of leaves you leaving.
Okay.
So sounds like this: Do re mi fa sol la ti. Walk away. Like that is what that T that leaves you in like a dissonant like feeling. And so like what I'm inviting people
Unfinished.
is like, yeah, it's unfinished. And so like so this concept of when somebody comes out and you feel that dissonance, don't walk away while you're in T, sit
Mm-hmm.
in it and allow it to be messy and navigate in the messy towards the resolution. It may take a day, it may take years, it may,
Who
but
knows?
sit in it, and the process even, especially for example, like my mom sharing what she shared with me, that was my mom saying, "Son, I'm sitting in the messy with you
Yes.
now," and that meant
Mm-hmm.
the world to me. It was her joining in on the dissonance instead of hiding behind the I
Mm-hmm.
knows and saying like, but the church teaches this, da, 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 da. And she, instead of hiding behind I know language, she it basically is saying, I'm here to sit in this dissonance with you while it's messy.
Yes, that is a perfect way to explain that. And I would add, you might feel that dissonance when someone shares how they identify, that I'm gay or that I'm bisexual or transgender. It could also be when a friend, family member, loved one shares, I need to take a break from church, or I don't feel like that's where I can be right now, or I don't want to be, or it doesn't feel safe, or whatever it might be. It could also be, I've met somebody and I care about them and they care about me, and we're just going to see what happens. It could be a lot of different things. But I think when we just go with whatever that knee-jerk reaction is, and for those that were raised in a conservative faith, it's often one of maybe this proverbial wall of resisting that that's what they're sharing, or that can't be true, or disbelief, or whatever, to pause and think about, okay, do I want to leave this on the T note, or do I want to try to venture toward finishing off the scale? Like, can I just pause here for a minute and entertain the idea that there's more behind what they're sharing?
And if I can also add a new idea is I'm become a really big fan of Adam Grant, who's
Mhm.
you're familiar with his
Yeah.
work? And like I can't remember his it's like the three P's. Anyway, what I'm trying to get to is the idea of I'm in search of the truth. Like I'm still like you could call me a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, but another way you can define, oh, not define me, but call me, is I'm a truth seeker. I'm in search of the truth, and I'm not looking for what makes me feel good. I'm in search of the truth, even if it challenges me. And so, like, I look forward to, maybe this is the academic in me, but like, I look forward to things challenging what I believe, because then, like, that's like that idea that I mentioned earlier. Then I have time to bake. I get to chew on it a little bit more, and just battle with it. And like, I think I'm different from most people. I like that battle. I liked like trying to figure out and justify and argue in my head to try to
Mhm.
figure it out. And I think a lot of people shy away from that. Like, if you hear something that challenges you, like, chew on it, and because ultimately, I would hope we're in the pursuance of what is right, but not what makes us feel right. You know?
Yeah. That is, yeah. That's, and that to me is the crux of the beauty. Like, I'm talking deep, just deep, meaningful beauty. Like, you get to decide that about your journey. You're a truth seeker. You get to give yourself permission that is who you are. And I think the more we can lean into what initially might make us feel uncomfortable or bring up that cognitive dissonance, I've learned personally, and I invite others with whom I work to consider this. Ask yourself, is your response, are you making their story about yourself? Are you
Mm,
focused more on your own pain and or discomfort and completely missing theirs? I think these are really important questions that we can ask ourselves, that we can be willing to come face to face with, because underlying all of that is, that's to me like the heart of the gospel. It's love. It's unconditional love. Just see
yeah.
people for who they are.
Yeah, and then the quote that comes to my mind is President Monson, former president of our church who passed away. He quoted Shakespeare saying, "They do not love that do not show their love."
Hmm.
You know, and
Yeah,
I think, and now we have other things like the five love languages. Like, can we communicate love in the language that the person I love understands? You know, I
yeah,
think a lot of us that grow up, you talk about conservative religions, can also talk about conservative cultural upbringings. Is like
true.
some true love is tough love, and and so I think so many people of an earlier
Hmm.
generation can default to that
Yeah,
instead of
that's a really good point. That's a really good
yeah.
point.
So
Yeah.
so they do not love that do not show their love, and I would invite people to consider to show love in the way that the of in the language of love that that individual understands.
So true. So true. I just glanced at the clock while we've been chatting and chatting. One last question that I like to ask my guests. Share with us what it means to you to live beyond this shadow of doubt, beyond this conception that we have of having doubt. What does it mean to you to live beyond that?
You know what? I will be honest. I still struggle to understand the meaning of this phrase. Like, where did it even come from?
Yeah,
And
that's good.
could you dive into a little bit more of what that means? Like, I
The
need this,
history,
and
that's actually a really valid point. Yeah,
because like
it's true.
what does that? Because you said you removed the A from it,
Yeah,
beyond the shadow of doubt, is
yeah,
because, like, if going back to that original word or wording of it, beyond a shadow of a doubt, when I hear that, I'm like, I don't know what that is, and I'm okay with that.
yeah, yeah. Just I can see from our conversation. how you don't fear doubts. You don't fear having questions at all. I can see that. Maybe at one time in your life, you might not have acknowledged it as fear. Maybe it was an avoidance, or not even, or perhaps even not even acknowledging that in your world, we don't have doubts. That doesn't exist. I know XYZ. I know, you talked about how you
Yeah.
closed your lesson on Sunday. I'm choosing these words on purpose. I trust, fill in the blank. I'm striving to believe, fill in the blank. To me, that epitomizes living beyond this often negative, shameful shadow that has been cast on having doubts and questions.
Yeah.
You are, in my observation and in sharing with you, and plus listening to your presentation, I mean, yeah, you're embodying that. You're living
Thank you.
that. I truly do feel that. And you're being an example, a living example of what's possible in that respect. So I think in your life, the way you choose to live and be and share and love, yeah, you're moving in a very positive, very good direction.
Thank you. It's very generous.
Yeah, it's true. So real quick, I throw out a line of questions. I'm looking for 1 to 2 word answers. This just lets our
Ooh,
listeners
rapid
get to
fire.
know you. Okay. Are you
Okay.
an introvert or an extrovert?
Introvert.
Okay. Wow. Okay. And do
Wait.
you have a favorite book? Oh, you can share more about being an
Oh,
introvert
okay.
if you want.
Okay. Introvert has less to do with social skills and more to do with energy. And I think Simon Sinek said this. And the difference is, like, an introvert starts off their day with like 5 social coins, and if you spend them all, at the end of the day you feel depleted. Whereas an extrovert starts off with 0, and with each conversation you gain a coin, and at the end of the day they feel rich. But the reason I think that's important is because, like, an introvert can be good at communication skills. It doesn't mean we're always shy. It just means we're
That
trying to
is
conserve energy.
so true. I love that so much. Thank you. Okay. Do you have a favorite book?
Oh, favorite book. Oh goodness.
Doesn't have to be
Oh,
the most favorite.
there's a book that talks about building the kingdom of Samoa, of missionaries that went to Samoa. My
Okay.
grandpa is in that book, and so I remember seeing him in there, and that's one of my favorite books.
Oh, lovely. Okay. Do you have a favorite artist?
Favorite artist, I would say composer, and if you're in the choir world, you're gonna cringe, but his name is Morton Lauridsen. His piece, his Lux Eterna, changed my life and is the reason why I'm in choral music.
Oh, I love that. Own it. Okay. Are you a night owl or a morning lark?
Uh, Night owl, absolutely. I go between bed, going to bed early is 11 o'clock. Late is like 1 and 2.
Okay. Um, do you do still or carbonated water, or are you a diet soda fan?
Uh, I am all the above. All the above.
Okay. You like hydration. Okay. Do you have a celebrity crush?
Celebrity crush. I got into Thai BL series, which are boy love series, and this guy's name is Singto, and he's in the series called Sodas. And so, yes, my celebrity crush is in Thailand.
I love it. That is awesome. And then finally, the furthest place, you just looked at your boyfriend. That's awesome.
Yes.
And then the furthest place that you've traveled,
My mission in New Zealand, Auckland.
New Zealand. I've actually been there to visit. My husband served there. Love it. Such
Oh,
a
wow.
beautiful place. Yeah. Yes, it has been amazing. You are a light and inspiring, and I love to hear how things are going and all the things that you're doing. Thanks for taking some time out of your busy life and spending it here with me and our listeners.
It's been so much fun. Thank you, Megan.
Beyond the Shadow of Doubt podcast is a proud member of the Dialogue Podcast Network, which is part of the Dialogue Journal found at dialoguejournal.com. Founder Eugene England was a Mormon writer, teacher, and scholar who wrote, "My faith encourages my curiosity and awe. It thrusts me out into relationship with all creation and encourages me to enter into dialogue. My hope is that this podcast is an extension of that vision." Visit meganskidmorecoaching.com to find this podcast and additional free resources, including the link for a complimentary coaching session. Follow me on Facebook or Instagram for more, or to send me a DM. Help the podcast grow. Please follow, review, and share with a friend.